Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Beyond the Frame. My name is Dottie San Martin, and I'm your host today. With me, I have Barbara Flynn. Barbara is the president, the founder of People First, which is a HR firm. And you're also an educator. We were just speaking earlier that you do classes at the university and a human resources consultant. Barbara, welcome to Beyond the Frame.
Thank you, Dottie. It's great to be here.
Well, this is such a strange time. We're coming out of the pandemic, and gosh, everywhere we turn, people are having challenges with staffing. I mean, you see now hiring signs everywhere. How do people combat these staffing issues and these shortages? Any recommendation?
Well, it's tough. I'm not going to say it's easy, but I hate to use the old cliche, but we have to think outside the box. It's not our usual, if we build it, they're going to come. We need to figure out ways to attract people. And how do we do that? I have used this for years. If you go somewhere where you see great service, great customer service, or even if you're at a grocery store and you're checking out or drugstore, on the back of my business card, I would write, I was so impressed with your service. If you know of anybody who can perform or, who has the same work ethic, please give them my card because we're hiring. And so you're not necessarily taking that person away, although I've had it where that person has called me and said, I'm interested. I'd love the opportunity to come and work for you. So that's something to, and I used to give those cards to everybody. It doesn't cost a lot to have some business cards. I printed them in-house for the staff. So all of the employees had them as well. And so I encourage them to go to their friends and give them the cards to say, hey, I love it here. It's a great place to work. We have openings. Please, check it out. Call our HR person or whoever does the recruiting for the center. But, word of mouth and those relationships, clients, customers, vendors are all ways to, the UPS driver, the mailman, whoever is coming in, just say that we have, we have these openings. But again, it's outside the box. It's not, oh, let me go on Monster or Indeed or somewhere. And that's where everybody is going now. And so thinking outside the box, and referrals are usually, someone's not going to refer somebody if they're not going to work out. I mean, it's not always the case, but.
Right. And, it's a fact that especially like your good workers, or like you said, if you go into a restaurant and the busboy just has great work ethics, they usually have friends that are very similar to their to the way they do things.
Right.
And so that's usually a good candidate. And two, especially in a bowling center where you are dealing with younger employees, they want to recommend their friends to work there because they then have that connection at work and they feel like they can enjoy their job because they've got a friend that works there. So there's a lot of advantages to doing that as well. So that's kind of.
I do have, I hear the naysayers because I have seen situations where there were so many from a circle of friends that when it came to be homecoming or prom night, everybody wanted that night off. So you've got that to deal with. So you've got to have a balance. It's kind of like hiring family. My first job ever, we had a situation, it was a production environment, and we had an entire assembly line where 50% of them were in the same family and there was a death in the family. So 50% of our assembly line, that particular, wasn't all of our lines, but that one line, we had 50% absence for 3 days because of bereavement. So you do have to be careful with that too and have a balance. But it really does. The way things are right now, it's could be an alternative to how we do our traditional recruiting.
Yes, for sure. Well, Barbara, before we went live, we were talking about, driving down the street and seeing the now hiring and the wages that they're posting and even incentives. But you had mentioned that you saw that there was a cash incentive for new hires. What are some of the creative ways can you talk a little bit about that? And then also what were some of the creative ways you've seen people attract talent?
Well, as we talked about the cash incentive, now I know a lot of folks with the pandemic and everything, it's been tough. So revenue was down, but I'm also hearing that because people were cooped up for so long that people are having record-breaking months.
Yes.
So there should be some cash there as well, but you can also, like Dottie, you were talking about bartering. I mean, gosh, I would give anything to have an iPhone. And you said you had a relationship with the Apple Store.
Yes.
And so those are ways that you can be creative and not necessarily have a lot of cash outlay. Maybe just some free games of bowling, or maybe a birthday party or a pizza bowl or whatever would fit the group that you're looking to barter with. But those are other ways. And then also branding. We brand for our customers that we are, a bowling center or whatever, activities we offer in our facilities. But we also should be branding ourselves as an employer of choice, an employer that you want to come work for, an employer that, let's look at non bowling centers, but, Southwest Airlines. They're an employer of choice. We have a payroll software company down here in South Florida that does all kinds of creative ways to make people want to come work for them, where once you're there, you're never going to leave. And so it's known outside of their employment group that this is where I want to work. And the only way you get a job there is because somebody who works there referred you, because it's so hard to get in the door. So having that reputation, and what do you do to get that reputation? It starts with culture.
Okay.
And the
Absolutely.
importance of the culture in your environment, where people are happy to be there, they're having fun. Let's face it, it's a bowling center. We want our customers to have fun. Let's have our employees have fun as well.
Yes, it needs to start with the employee.
And if we know how to make fun for our customers, I'm certain we can be creative to make fun for our employees. Whether,
No, I was just going to say, and maybe even have a dedicated person, maybe one of your energetic younger staff members, kind of empower them with that role,
right.
to be going out and creating that culture. You want to get up in the mornings and you want to go to work and enjoy your job. And when you've got that culture going, it makes a world of difference, not just on the attitude of the employee coming in, but it radiates off of them. So they're able to provide a better service to your customer as well, because they're coming in energized and full of excitement, and they smile more. So definitely I can see that creating that culture. And then, as you said, branding yourself as a employer of choice is so important.
Right.
So
I once had a CEO who said, I know that we're not a career, you don't come and work in a bowling center for a career. Now, some of our managers do, but our folks that are on the line are typically first-time workers, maybe, and birthday party hosts, customer service reps. They're maybe going to college, they're getting a degree in something, they're not going to stay. But this CEO always said, I would love to have that brand, that when someone saw you work for our company, that they would know that they would hire you because of the reputation the company had. So, XYZ company, oh my gosh, they work for XYZ company. We're going to hire them because we know the kind of people that come from that organization, and they're the kind of people we want to work for us.
Oh, wow. I like that. I like that. That's really a testament to how you do things.
Right. And again, it's all about the brand. It's all about the brand.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes, it is. Well, let's kind of shift gears a little bit because there's so many different things in HR that, I mean, it's just, there's never a dull moment, right?
Oh,
But
no.
one of the things that I want to talk about is when you have an incident in your center. I know that used to always be one of those things that people kind of scrambled because they wanted to make sure that they were doing exactly what they were supposed to be doing to make sure that we were not opening ourselves up for a future problem. So when you have an incident in your center, can you give us any advice on what the next step should be?
Well, I can say before the incident occurs, one word, training.
Okay.
So with the staff, there should be role play. There should be activities where you're showing an incident and what should occur and what should not occur. I do that a lot with customer service, with whatever, but in training, I know we did a couple of trainings. One was a bomb scare. And then one was obviously, in the bowling center, we have a lot of slip and falls and what we should do. And the first thing is obviously you want to make sure whoever might be injured, if the incident was an injury, whoever is injured, that they're taken care of. That's the first step. Whether you need to call 911, administer first aid, whatever the case may be. Of course, you should have trained folks who know how to administer first aid and not just anybody. Again, goes back to training. But once the person is taken care of, it's so critical to take pictures of where the incident occurred, to find out who the witnesses were and get their contact information so that you will have that for future. And then, take the necessary steps that need to be taken so that it doesn't happen again.
Sure.
But you want to make sure you've taken the pictures and all of that's been done, because you also don't want to clean up the scene when you can show that, well, they crossed the foul line and that's why they got oil on their shoes and they slipped and fell, or whatever the case may be. But then you're proactive on what caused it, so the investigation continues to find out what caused it and what can we do to correct it. We had a case where in one of the centers I was working with, a senior was walking, the outside had 2 steps to go down. Well, it was Chattahoochee stone. And so it was hard to see where the steps were because the stones all kind of blended together. And so then the manager, after that happened, he didn't realize it. You don't think about it. The steps were there. Everybody knows about it. But after that, he realized they painted yellow striping on the steps. So it was easy to see that there were steps, and there's other materials that can be used. But that was a result of somebody falling, doing the investigation. How can we prevent it in the future? This is what we're going to do. So
yes. And capturing it with photos is definitely something that I think that step gets skipped a lot of times, but certainly can make things a lot better in the future if you need to reference exactly.
Right. And a lot of centers may be using iPads now, and there's that video. You can also do video, take a video of the scene. And I guess there's handhelds too, but whatever equipment that's being used, if it's, the walk around equipment, it might have a video camera or a regular camera on as well to take those pictures and take those videos.
Good idea. What is the expectations and importance of safety and the compliance, especially now? We've got so much going on with masks, and can you require them to wear masks, and what are the safety and compliance issues that we're seeing now? How important is that to the customer these days?
Well, to both customers and employees, but I don't like to get into the politics of it, but some of it is political. It's people's beliefs, and so it's not an easy thing to do.
No.
I love to cruise. I've been on 3 cruises now since the pandemic since the cruise ships could start sailing again. And I am very happy I feel safer on the ships than I do I'm in South Florida, because the masks are required. And if you're not vaccinated, you can't do certain things. So as a customer, like if I see somebody doesn't have a mask on, I get kind of nervous and I may not go back there, or at least I talk about the fact that I haven't had a mask on. But then you've got other people. I have family members that are completely opposite, don't believe in masks, don't believe in the vaccine. And you got to find that balance. And the last thing I would want to see happen is that someone got COVID in my center and brought it home. I have a 90-year-old mother I live with. I would hate to bring that home to her. And so I believe in erring on the side of caution. But, and I don't mean political in politics, but being politically correct with our customers and getting a sense for where they're coming from. But that's a hard one. It's a hard one.
It really is, because you want to make all your customers feel comfortable. And the other thing that I've heard recently is that it's frustrating because some customers come in and if you ask them to put their mask on in the center, the person at the front desk is the one that,
It's
you know,
the front
that,
of
the
it.
one that catches the anger.
Yeah.
And of course, they're already, that employee is already pulling a double because so-and-so didn't show up. So, it's tough, and they don't need that extra frustration of that. But certainly, there are those customers that are going to come in and, no matter what your ruling is,
they're not going to be happy. Exactly. And even when you look at the laws right now, you look at OSHA, you look at the EEOC, which are all the agencies that are giving recommendations on what employers should be doing. Mm-hmm. There's litigation going against it. So it really is difficult as an employer. I've told my clients, you have to do what you feel is right. There's no precedent been set. There's no case law that's going to say you're right or wrong. You have to do what you feel is best for your employees and for your customers. I've had clients who are requiring the vaccine, and if someone is not willing to be vaccinated, then they are going to be terminated. I've had a client. This client was great. He established that everybody had to be vaccinated, and if you were not willing to be vaccinated, you had to be tested every week. And he brought in a testing facility to come into his business to do those tests every Thursday, so that the results would come back. And it was a school, so you need to think about the children. And so he had one person who even refused to be tested, and he had to terminate that person. So again, it's whatever he did imagine if you're not vaccinated, okay, we'll just agree to be tested every week.
That seems fair enough to me. And
it had someone who argued that. And he said, what do I do? Am I going to get in trouble? No, we're in an at-will state, so you can do that. It's not discriminatory. You've got proof of what you're doing, and this person's refused to do it. You're within your rights to terminate that person. So now you might have a lawyer who could be on this call, could say, hey, I don't agree with you, and I would fight that, because there is no case law. That's what's happening right now. The lawsuits are only starting to happen now. We don't know what the results of that are going to be yet. So we're testing the waters. We're the guinea pigs.
Well, and there is a need to make sure that you're letting your staff members know these are the ground rules that we're going to be playing by. Right. Same with your customers. You want to make sure that the customer is fully aware of what the expectation of if you come into this facility. Mm-hmm. And certainly it goes back to what you said earlier, the training. If you have a policy that guests are going to have to wear masks in your center, then role play that with your employees and, come up with ways that you can say it that's going to hopefully not let it escalate into, a full-blown shouting match with your customer. But, right. Going back to that and spending more time and investing in those employees that you have to make sure they're comfortable. Right. Nobody wants their employees to be verbally abused. Right. And so equipping them with ways to diffuse that situation, I think would be very beneficial for you in the long run.
And I know we train our front desk folks, those first line folks that meet the customers, but I would say that because of what's going on, there should be someone in management always there, so
Yeah.
that that person doesn't have to get yelled at. The manager should be the one, and there should be support from the top down. And the other thing is, in an environment where you might have employees who don't agree with the company policy, but you've got to make sure they're on board with it, that they understand that this is, and that goes back to culture, that this is who we are, what we stand for, and we need for you to support it. And if you're not going to support it, and I know it's hard to say this, but maybe you're not in the right place.
Yeah.
And having that everybody be on board with what the company's policies are, and then not having somebody go, yeah, well, I don't agree with it either, but you have to do it. Kind of, you don't want somebody to be that bad flood in the organization.
Exactly. And I found that sometimes when you are transparent and you share with the employee or with the customer the reasoning behind the decisions that are made, sometimes it makes it a little bit more tolerable, even though you may not agree with whatever it is. But if you understand the reasoning behind it as to why the center is making that decision, sometimes that makes it a little bit,
More
easier.
palatable. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I think, not just in this, but when you're saying that, I'm thinking, wouldn't the world be a better place if we all have our different opinions and our different ideas, but can't we just respect each other's opinions and ideas without making it such a battle and making it so negative?
That would be amazing.
I know.
And when you figure that out, we're definitely going to have you back on the show.
It's just so sad. It just makes sense that
Yeah.
why.
And maybe the pandemic has made that a little closer to becoming reality. We're certainly not there yet, but I think that we have learned the importance of being kinder and being a little bit more respectful. And hopefully that's one of those things that we don't revert back to the way it was,
Right.
pre-pandemic.
I think about when we were in the Olympics, and the miracle on ice, and in the 1980 Olympics, how we were all together and we were rooting for one team, and such a wonderful feeling, and the horrible 9/11, how we were all together after that. We do forget, and here we are again.
Sometimes we just have to be rattled a little bit, and we realize that, what, we just, shame on us.
Right.
Shame on us.
It has made a difference for me. I have a whole different mentality about life and everything since this pandemic, and I'm reaping the rewards from that as well. I've got a wonderful staff, and our clients are all happy with us, and it's just, it is, like you said, it's would be nice if we can all be that way.
It goes back to something we said earlier, that you want to create a culture in your company where the employees get up in the morning and they're looking forward to going to work. It sounds like you have that culture yourself with people first.
I do. I'm the owner, so I don't want to tell my horn, but my staff all says they appreciate what we do, and I show appreciation to them. A simple little thing. I was in Hallmark card store the other day, and I saw little 99-cent cards, and they all had different sayings on them, and I stood and I took the time to get a card for each one of my staff that was appropriate for them, and I hand wrote a note in the card and mailed it to each of them.
It makes a world of difference.
It makes a world of difference.
You cared enough to take the time to do that. And you know what, that goes so far as to the customers as well. When you can take the time to show a customer that you are doing something from your heart for them, that creates such a bond, such loyalty with that customer. And it doesn't have to be anything big. Maybe it's something as simple as remembering that they had someone sick in the household and you ask how that person is. That makes a world of difference.
It does. We do have that policy. All our staff have little note cards. And so like we had one of our customers, we also process payroll. So our payroll person knew that this person was buying a house because she had to fill out payroll information. And so she knew that what the closing date was. So on that date, she wrote out a card and congratulated her and said, you know, hope everything went well. I'm excited. Can't wait to hear all about the new house. That person is like, oh my gosh, she sent me an email going, I just want you to know how wonderful your staff is. A simple note card.
Special. I call those warm fuzzies.
Yeah.
When
right.
you can give someone a warm fuzzy, it's they're not expecting it, and it makes such a memory. It makes a memory in their mind, but it also makes a memory in their heart, and that it's a feel-good place.
Yeah.
And if we could have more of those, talk about culture. That's
Right.
a great way to create culture, internally and externally as well. So
Yeah.
I think that is definitely good advice. So I want to ask one last thing, and then we're going to wrap here for the day. What are 3 things that customers can do today to make some of their HR headaches go away?
Communicate.
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Communicate.
Okay.
Always communicate. As you said, I teach at the local university, and I always say the majority of our problems would be solved if we just communicated initially, because the rumors can fly. So communication, compassion, showing compassion for your employees. They will be very loyal to you if you show that you care about them and you're taking care of them. I want to say from a business perspective, we kind of talked about this earlier, and it's so important to know your numbers.
Yes.
Know your numbers, because knowing your number and sharing them. I share our numbers with our staff so that they can see. I have someone right now who is dealing with so much, but she said, I can take care of my job. I want you to continue doing what you're doing, because we want the bottom line to be what we planned when we set our goals for the 4th quarter. So if you know your numbers and you share them with your staff and have them understand what they mean, because sometimes they might just see the bottom line and go, oh, they're making all this money, blah, blah, blah. But if you share with the staff what they mean, they're going to work really hard for you, and they're going to care, and they're going to want to know. And then if you provide them with an incentive saying, if we can do this on the bottom line, we're going to be sharing it with you. That makes the world a difference as well.
That's motivating for a lot of people. Goes back to that culture.
Yes, right.
Barbara, it has certainly been a pleasure talking with you today. And as we get ready to wrap the show, do you have any words of wisdom or a message of hope that you would like to leave our viewers with?
Well, it's not all doom and gloom. It's the glass half full or the glass half empty. And so having the right attitude, we can get through anything. And I know for me personally, I can't get through it without people. I name my company People First. So it is just, it's just so important to just have the right perspective on things, and have that positive attitude. No matter what you're going through. And I know several people, or a lot of people, are going through a lot now. But when you look at it from the perspective of the half full perspective, it's not so bad. It's not so bad.
I totally agree. And Barbara, before I forget, if we have any viewers out there that would like to contact you or have questions for you, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, we do have a website. It's www.peoplefirstinc.com. Okay. And also I can be reached at bflynn@peoplefirstinc.com. And I believe in just helping folks. So any questions anybody ever has, consider us a resource for you.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, viewers, I want to mention to you that next week we are going to have Stephanie Davis, president of Davis Productions and owner of International Bowling Industry Magazine, with us next week. And we're going to find out what's going on in the industry. We're going to talk a little bit about the magazine and the direction that they're going with that magazine. So make sure that you make plans to join us next week for that. Barbara, thanks so much for spending some time with us this afternoon, and we look forward to talking with you again one day.
I would love that. Thank you, Dottie. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Viewers, have a wonderful afternoon and join us next week on Beyond the Frame Live.